Stay out of trouble.
Hello my friends, welcome back to Player Display. So if you're familiar with my gaming channel, link in the description of course, I did a little round of ROBOCOP Rogue City. I didn't finish the whole game on the channel, but I did finish the game and I'm currently replaying it. I love it so much, and I'm so highly impressionable that I wanted to get more ROBOCOP stuff. So that brings us over here to this model kit. I just went on BBTS to see what was going on ROBOCOP wise, and it turns out Good Smile was making a model kit. I believe this kit is, as I said on the BBTS page, is about 6.88 inches, so I think that's close enough to 7-inch scale, but we'll just have to check it out when I'm done building it. But for now, let's just have a look at the box. This figure is technically from ROBOCOP 3. There's actually two versions of this model kit, though. This one's a little bit more deluxe because it comes with the Jetpack and his additional arm attachment that you have over here. So this is the same kit, just with a few little extra perks in there. So it's not totally accurate to ROBOCOP 3 because the colors are ever so slightly different, and obviously it wouldn't be Peter Weller's face in there because it was a totally different actor in ROBOCOP 3. That being said, this is still a really awesome looking box. Over here we have Motoroid, Texas Little Small says Good Smile Company Model Kit Series. Down here we have ROBOCOP, Jetpack Equipment, Plastic Model Kit, XO. Aw, that's really nice, thank you. Good Smile Company. Off to the top, it's all upside down. Hold on a second here. Looks like we got the back of the Jetpack, maybe the inside, I'm not totally sure. Off to the sides, there's ROBOCOP again. Off to this side, here he is, just a little closer up, and kind of getting in the way of my station. Sorry for the weird camera angles. Off to the back, we have ROBOCOP and all his various posing and accessory options. Here he is, standard right there, and then with his Auto 9 in his leg. I'm not sure if that's going to be an interchangeable part, or if it's going to be like the NECA figure where it actually opens up. Here he is with the Jetpack, got the back of the Jetpack, got the inside of the Jetpack, and then we have him flying as he controversially, albeit briefly, does in the film. So I've already cut this box open, but I haven't looked at the contents yet. I only ever do Bandai model kits. I haven't done one in a very long time, actually, so I'm not sure what a Good Smile model kit would look like. I'm not sure if this is a new thing for them, or if they've been doing it for a while. This is my first Good Smile anything, so... Okay, it's a box in a box, which is fine. And I think the item description said that everything is already pre-molded in the needed colors. That's what I'm hoping for. Looks like it, yeah. So you got some silver parts over here, borderline gunmetal, some black screws on the back, more gunmetal. I don't know. I'm sure that some of these sprues are specifically for ROBOCOP, and some are specifically for the Jetpack. I think that, yeah, this is the main ROBOCOP color. It's more just stark silver, as it pretty much closely resembles in ROBOCOP 1, so that's fine by me. Of course, in ROBOCOP 2 and 3, he has a blue sheen with a little bit of purple accents in there, so closer to the NECA figure. Got some leg parts over here. Got some more black for, like, the inside of the suit. You can't even really call it a suit, it's just his body at that point, I suppose. It looks like he's got some joint pieces in here. Ooh, he's also got a Cobra rifle, which looks really awesome. So, yeah, this is kind of a one-size-fits-all. You get the kit, he kind of represents as he does in all three movies, excluding the shit remake. But anyways, we're not talking about that today. Over here, we have, wow, we actually have a lot of hands, more than I was expecting, so really looking forward to that. Off to this side, some more silver. And, okay, this part I'm mildly disappointed with, but it's not the worst thing ever. Here we have some faceplates, and I was hoping it would be like Bandai, where they're pre-printed, if you get what I mean. So that way they already have the teeth painted in, it's proper flesh tone. The flesh tone seems a little bit saturated, so I might want to do a little bit of paint work here, then do some dry coat. I'll figure that out. You know, closed mouth, got gritted teeth. I don't know what this one is. Looks like he's giving you a big smooch, but I'll have to look at the instruction manual and see what's going on there. I was expecting decals as well. It looks like I might just be able to paint these right on. These I'll probably just lay right down. We have the instruction manual, which is quite hefty, actually. Oh, this is interesting. So, because I said there are two model kits, it looks like you get two instruction manuals. Let's pop out here. Come on, camera. There we go. Okay, so we have one for ROBOCOP himself, and then we get this shorter one over here for the Jetpack portions, which makes perfect sense. So it's just a reduced instruction manual for the Jetpack. I know on some like Gundam kits. I don't do Gundam anymore because I always find that I build them and I have no idea what to do with them. But sometimes they recycle parts from other kits. And then when you get to that section where it shows you all the numbered parts, some parts are X'd out because they belong to a previous kit but aren't relevant to the current kit that you're working with. But here, it looks like every piece will be needed. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm just going to build the kit. If I come across any snags or anything particularly interesting or different from a Bandai kit, then I'll come back and let you know. Otherwise, I'm just going to build the thing. So I will see you later. Alright, so I got some good news and bad news before I even begin assembling this kit. Good news is, I went to the faceplates and I actually painted them up. I gave them each less saturated flesh tone to make them look a little bit more human-like, which is a little odd for a cyborg character, but it just seems to match the source material a little better. Also did the lips and the teeth and 2 of the mouths, so that's a lot nicer. Also did a dull coat as well, so these are good to go. However, the bad news is, when looking at the sprues a little more closely, I noticed the ones that are done up in silver have quite a bit of marbling. Firstly, you can especially see it up here on the dome. You have almost this Y shape right in front of the helmet, which I do not like at all. Also down here on the torso, if I flip this guy around, you will see that there are some imperfections all the way throughout. So, unfortunately, I don't have silver spray paint on my person anymore, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and order some more in. I'll probably get silver and black, and then do like a gloss coat over that, so I'm gonna order those in. In the meantime, I'm not gonna build this guy for the moment, so, yeah, we're gonna have to sit on this one for a while, at least I will, but, I'll string all the footage together when everything's all set, and in just a few seconds, you'll see the end result. Alright, so this took several days, and it was quite an ordeal. I actually wound up just building this guy outright, just to know what I was working with. Then I deassembled him, I laid every single piece down, I waited for the paints to come in, then today I was just running in and out of my spray room, just spraying all the different colors in there. I actually wound up using 4 different types of paint to bring this dude and his accessories to life, so a lot of love and effort went into this guy. Not exactly perfect, but I think I did alright. So this guy has a lot of accessories. This is going to be less reviewing the figure himself, but more so just reviewing the accessories he has, how everything interchanges, doing our size comparisons, and all of whatnot. As for ROBOCOP himself, sculpt-wise, he looks really damn good. So let's begin there. So firstly, if we pull him on in, you'll see that everything here, like I said, is repainted. Not a perfect paint job. I did everything with Tamiya spray paints. I did, I believe, silver, black, a semi-gloss coat, which didn't come off as great as I wished, but it's alright. And then also this sort of gunmetal gray, which wasn't really shiny, it was more matte, but I used that on the Jetpack, so you see what that looks like in a minute here. But as for the figure itself, I think the proportions are absolutely fantastic. Definitely looks like it will fit in just fine with the 7-inch scale lines from NECA, Super 7, whatever it is you like, McFarlane even. So this guy's no slouch scale-wise. He will fit with a lot of different lines. Anyways, that being said, those are our general statements. Let's zoom in and look at this OCP product. So here we have the head sculpt, which looks really great. One thing I was a little bit afraid of was losing all those little etch marks and inscriptions that are all over ROBOCOP's design when I sprayed them up, but I used very light coats, did one at a time, like I sprayed one, ran out, went back in, did another coat, so on and so forth. Everything came out beautifully. Now, of course, the very first thing I did, which we mentioned already, is I did the mouth portions. So obviously, I painted those by hand completely, did a matte coat, and I left them out of the spraying process completely when I was done with them, because you don't want to paint them with a gloss coat, let alone a colored paint, or you'd lose all your progress there. So this is one of our mouth parts. There are 3 of them. This is more of his closed mouth. I did okay. I don't do the best at doing flesh tones, but I'm pretty happy with what I did. It comes off enough. Although one thing I noticed, and this actually can be said about the NECA figure as well, but it's more predominant on this Good Smile model kit, the helmet kind of dips forward, which is accurate, but as a result of that, you'll notice it casts kind of a shadow on the face, so depending on what kind of lighting you have, it kind of hides whatever paintwork that you did. So that's a minor bummer, but again, depending on how you pose him, it'll be more visible, or maybe it'll be a little more hidden, but that's okay. I don't know. Maybe it gives him a little bit more of an ominous look, but whatever you like. But as for the head sculpt, really nice components here. It's made of a few parts, which can be interchanged. We'll look at that later. Got the top dome, got this black portion over here with the chin guard, also got the neck, and then one thing worth mentioning is this silver part, which you can tell is a little inconsistent with the rest of the armor. That was hand painted and then gloss coated over with a spray. That is because that was originally part of this black mold that we have over here. Not black mold like we're living in unsanitary conditions here, but part of the mold of the rest of the head sculpt. So that had to be painted in by hand to make it more accurate, and this was the end result. And then, like I said, not a whole lot else to discuss regarding the rest of the sculpt. If you've seen one RoboCop that's done in the modern toy lines, you've kind of seen them all. They're usually all pretty good with getting all the etched in details. Like, one thing I didn't even notice until I started building this model kit is the left and right arms are differently sculpted. Like over here, you have kind of that cross in there. But over here, you just have it going vertically. You don't have it going horizontal. So I found that really intriguing. And then the gloves are identical, unless, of course, you go with the crazy RoboCop 3 gun attachment, which we'll have a look at. The pecs are very well done, too. A little vent over there, a little port down here, and also these really neat-looking rivets, almost these triangles that are kind of streamlining the more blocky details that you can kind of make out throughout the design, like over here on the arm as well. Off to the back, you'll actually notice that these two plates are segmented. They can't be removed. I actually haven't done that yet since I did the painting. That shouldn't be too hard, though. Yeah, there goes one. And that is what's going to allow you to attach to the jetpack, which I haven't even done yet. So we will have a look at that as well. Oops, I am right. Nope. Try it again. Third time's the charm. All right, there we go. And as can be said about all the black portions of this figure, so gloves, ass, abs, whatever you got, all of that was sprayed with the matte black to just get rid of marbling, and I did the gloss coat on top of it. So yeah, it came out a little bit rough when you closely inspect it, but I think it looks okay. Maybe it was in the rain or something, and I don't know, gives him a wet look. So I actually don't mind this paint job. It came out all right. Down here, once again, similarly to the helmet, you have OCP Police 01, because this is the only RoboCop that actually worked, when you really think about it, because the Ed 209 was historically shit. Then Canebot, well, you know what happened there. And they have the Japanese ones, and they just were lousy imports, I guess. A great strength that this figure has over the NECA one is you actually have a lot of swivels here that allow you to cheat and get this guy into poses that he probably wouldn't be able to be in on screen. So I really do appreciate that. Then down here, you also have these really chunky hydraulics, which are a little bit oversized from what I saw when rewatching the movies, but that is to allow for the hydraulic feature to actually work. And this is one of the greatest strengths of this figure, the fact that it has so much foot movement. Not a ton, of course, but the hydraulics move a really good amount. Not only are they functional, but you'll notice that there are several ball joints going on. There's one down here on the ankle, and there's one on the back of the shin, which is great. So even if you wanted to kind of turn the foot to the side, you'll see that that whole hydraulic portion moves with it. And you'll also notice the actual piston that I have in there, I did not paint that whatsoever. I painted the outside of the hydraulics itself, but I left the piston unpainted to ensure that there would be ease of movement in and out. Also, it's in the back, so you don't notice that from a distance as much. But if you get up close, you can kind of make out the distance between the base plastic we had before and the paint that we have now. So that's pretty much all that can be said about the basic looks of the figure. Let's go ahead and pool into the accessories, because my god, there are a lot of them, and perhaps more than I even know what to do with. So here are all of RoboCop's accessories, excluding one big-ass jetpack, which we will get to a little bit later. But before we get into these, it is worth mentioning that contrary to what I said before, you do actually have some extra pieces in the runners. Over here, all these are duplicates of parts that you would be seeing in the jetpack, on the ankles, and then on the side of his leg, because he does actually have the opening leg feature where he can store his Auto 9. So you have this extra plate here, you got some bonus wires, and you got some extra pistons in case you break anything and need a spare. So nice little bonus to have, but if you don't need them, then you can save them for other projects. So they are nice to have. I will put them into my fodder bin. So let's throw those away. and get into the main accessories over here. Now, the only things I did not paint over here are the Cobra rifle and the Auto 9. And the reason for that is simply on the fact that, firstly, they already had a natural gloss to them that was really nice, that was not interrupted by any type of marbling, so they already looked fine right out of the runner for me. And also, I didn't want to hurt how they fit in his gripping hand, so I didn't want to, like, thicken up the grip with paint. Then you put it in the hand, it gets stuck, and then there's paint rub or anything like that. So I omitted the paint on these two weapons completely. But that being said, they look fantastic. So here's the Cobra rifle. I think there's a more longer name for this thing. It's really nice. It's a very crisp sculpt, even in comparison to the NECA version. There are variations, like I think on the NECA one, we're not going to do a full comparison, but let me know in the comments if you want one, but along the top of the NECA scope, there's almost these little ridges, like you could put extra attachments on top of the scope if you wanted to. You also got the buttstock over there, you got the grip, got a really hefty ass magazine. I mean, you know what comes out of this thing, and it ain't fun. And if you want to beef it out a little bit, you do have an optional bipod. On the NECA one, you actually have a bipod as well, but it is articulated, so you could swing it back and forth. But in this case, there's a little port there, and you could just slot in the bipod like so, and there you go. So you can have it not even in his hands, you could just rest it just like that for the rest of looking at accessories. Then of course we have his Auto 9, his most iconic weapon of them all, and this came out beautifully. It looks really good. This is one single piece, which I really do appreciate. You can see this is the natural shine that comes from the black. I suppose in retrospect I didn't have to do anything with the black portions, but there was some marbling like on the crotch and on the abs I did want to get rid of, so I wanted to string everything except the weapons just to stay consistent. Then of course you have his absolutely wackadoo arm attachment from ROBOCOP 3, which, I'll be honest with you, I kind of love it. ROBOCOP 3, it's not a great movie. It's not even a good movie. But I kind of like how they turned him into a giant toy. And they gave him all these stupid attachments to run around with. I don't know, it was fun. I was okay with the movie. It's a so bad it's good sort of thing, you know? This thing is partways machine gun, partways grenade launcher, partways flamethrower, which is pretty insane. As for getting this on the figure, we'll look at that later, but you simply pop off a wrist, and you pop this one right on in its place, and it is totally seamless. It looks beautiful when you get it on there. Over here, we also have 4 alternate hands. We have 2 fists, which I suppose I'll drag in, why not? If you have played Rogue City as I have, I'm going through my 3rd playthrough. I'm absolutely in love with the thing. You know just how important fists are, and they are done very well. I believe all the hands are done with 2 parts each, but I went to spray them. I already had them assembled, so I just sprayed them on one side, flipped them, sprayed them again. Though I can't say the same process happened over here with his data spike hand, or whatever you'd want to call it. That might be a Star Wars term I'm using here. But what I did is I actually laid down some some masking tape on either side of the blade. Then I sprayed the hand on the front and the back, and then I removed the tape, and I used some chrome pens, I forget what the brand was, to paint in the internals of the knuckles, and then also the blade itself. I think this might still be drying. This stuff usually takes about 24 hours to set, so I'm not gonna be using that too much today, but it looks great, and it is more accurate than the NECA one. Then the last hand we have is, of course, a trigger hand. When I sprayed this one up, I actually laid down some tape on the inside of the grip, because one thing you'll notice later on in accessories, when you do some swaps, is that the Auto 9 and the sniper rifle actually click in on the inside of the hand, which is fantastic. And once again, don't want any paint in there, don't want anything to get too stuck or anything like that. You also have 2 alternate faceplates. We already looked at these before I started actually building the thing, but we have the gritted teeth, and we also have the pursed lips, or talking. I don't know what this could be exactly. It's kind of the smoochy face portrait, as I like to call it, but honestly my favorites are the more neutral one that we saw before, and then this gritted teeth one over here. So you could be more angry and agony, or, you know, just having a little bit of that emotion coming out from the Murphy side of ROBOCOP, right? Then you also have this very crude looking piece that feels very out of place. This is an additional piece that you'll need if you want him having the Auto 9 extending outside of his thigh, so we will attempt that as well. I've tried that once already. It takes a little while, but I'll do that on camera as well. And then over here are kind of of extra parts that aren't ever essential, but they're here if you want them. This is here if you have an optional figure stand. I've got like a third-party one over here, so I'm not sure how compatible it would be. Like, we could even try that now and just cross off the list if it doesn't work. No, this one doesn't work, but the instructions did highlight that Good Smile has their own figure stand that you can purchase, and then this would slot on there, but honestly, this guy stands up so well, he doesn't even need it, so you can probably disregard this completely. As for these parts over here, they're only needed if you want him flying with the jetpack, more specifically straight ahead. So if he had a figure stand, he'd be actually resting on top of this plate right here, and you can kind of guess how the arm of the stand would go, something like that, and then you'd rest his torso on top of this plate. And actually, this is really fascinating to me. I don't know why. He has a whole additional neck piece over here, so he can actually look straight forward. So that's a really cool bonus. His head doesn't articulate that high on its own, but you do have this extra piece to sort of make up those 5 seconds when he did have the jetpack on. So nice to have these. I mean, I don't have the figure stand, so I unfortunately can't really use them. I mean, I guess I could port this in if I wanted him looking up or something, if he's just standing around. But still, if you got the right figure stand, you could totally use them. So I'm starting to realize just how long this video is going to be, so for the sake of time, I'm going to move a little quickly here and just do some jump cuts, but I will show you at least the process of removing the faceplate, because it is quite interesting. What you want to do is pop off the head. It'll pop right off of that dumbbell joint that we have in the neck, and what you got to do is slip the black portion outside of the helmet, which I haven't had a problem with before, but I am now, because I'm on camera. I made it a point to not paint like the inside of the helmet, or, here we go, the outside of the inner portion of the head sculpt. So you can see I wrapped some paint, oh god, stop it. I wrapped some tape around the top of the head, so that way only the jaw would be painted, as well as this portion back here. So all of this is the base plastic, so that way this will slide on and off no problem. But anyways, as for replacing the portrait, all you need to do is take the little pink face under there, pop it out. You see that's a little visor portion over there. And then we'll take the gridded expression, port that on with 2 pegs, just like so. Get the head, the under portion of the head, whatever you want to call it, and slide it right under the bucket. And then we'll just slot it back onto the base body. And there we go. We got a mouth that's a little bit more kinetic, a little more emotional, which I really like. So that's probably the one I'm going to keep with this figure from now on, or at least for the duration of this video. Hopping ahead, as I said we would, here we have his trigger hand, and all we got to do for the Auto 9 is, the way I prefer to do it, even though this comes in 2 parts, is hold it together as you slide the gun into his hand from the top, kind of wiggle it down, and then once you do that, push it off to the outside of the hand like that, and then it'll click in, see what I mean? And then it's not going to wobble around like it was before. I learned that it does click in like that, and it looks really great. So there you are there, really awesome. And then if you want to transition over to ROBOCOP 3 and get him that crazy gun attachment, popping off the wrist is super easy. You just gotta maybe give him a little slight swivel, and then it'll pop off like that, and then you can get the gun attachment, pour that right on, and then you can see he is technically dual wielding. I don't know what you'd call this exactly. Now here he is holding the Cobra rifle, and this will really tell you just how different this figure is compared to the NECA counterpart in terms of articulation. The main key point here is the fact that he has swivels in the elbows, which is really great. So you can see that this little piston or hinge here or whatever is a fake hinge, and this whole thing is able to swivel off to the side and inward. So between that and the fact that all the hands are on a ball joint, are able to hinge up, down, and out, and whatever, they will allow you to hold the rifle two-handed, which the NECA figure cannot do. The one thing that I do recommend, you can go either way honestly, is removing the bipod, so that way it feels a little bit more natural, but yeah, you can hold this rifle no problem, so that is a serious bonus above the NECA figure. The last thing that I will show you actively live on camera is how you get the holster out, so that is going to take a little bit of time. It's not spring-loaded like the NECA one, which I keep bringing up, but basically what you want to do is go to his right leg, that's correct, and then you're going to take the front of it. You'll notice how it kind of slides forward. There's a little bit of a mechanism in there. And you want to pop off the side, which you want to be a little careful of. I mean, especially me, because I got some paint on mine, so I don't want anything to flake off, or the leg to fall off, which is certainly a possibility. But let me try Yeah, there we go. So that ports off. If you break it for whatever reason, they do give you a spare, like we mentioned before. And then you want to take this crazy wackadoo part. So you see those two little grips, those are in front. And then once again, look at that slot, port that in. Whoops, did I mess it up? Yeah, that makes so much more sense. And you also have that circular pin that'll go in as well. Then we can take the Auto 9 and slide it in between those two little clamps there, just like so. It stays in nice, looks great. And then we will take this plate again and put it on top of that crazy rig. There we go. So then we can re-articulate the leg back to where it was, put his hand down like that if you wanted to, and then, yeah, it looks pretty good. I also made it a point to not paint the innards, so that way everything would move in and out properly. Up to you if you wanted to go that far, but yeah, let's pan down, zoom in. It sells the illusion really well. I can't picture myself doing this a lot, but it's still a nice option to have in the bucket, of course. I'm actually going to bend the rules here because once I get the jetpack on, I feel like it's going to be a bitch and have to take back off. So we're actually going to do articulation first, then we'll move on to the jetpack. But anyways, let's go over the head sculpt to start. We got our swivel, goes all the way around very nicely. So good down. Not much back at all, but again, that's why we have that extra neck portion if you so desire it. We'll give that a look-sees a little bit later. We have some tilt as well for a little bit of motion in there. As for the arms, they swivel all the way around, and you do have a little bit of out, a little bit back in, and it teeters side to side, which is nice. Although I noticed that the right arm, in contrast to the left, it tends to pop off when I articulate it, when I have the gun in there. That might just be because it requires a bit more force, being that this hand does a little bit more than this one over here. Because you got the trigger hand, you got the data spike, you got a whole lot of alternates on the right compared to the left. But anyways, moving on. Down here on the elbow, we have a really good bend, and it can hit 90 where it looks more realistic, and I think that's as far as it goes in the movie, but you can go a little forward and break the rules, which is awesome. And you'll notice that the joint, the imitation joint in there, it goes beyond where it's supposed to be, but that will allow him to hit past 90 if you so chose, and that looks really great. And of course you got that swivel in there, which helps him a great deal with dual wielding or holding the rifle, as we talked about before. All the hands are on a ball joint, and they hinge up and down, and also in and out. Down here on the torso, there's actually quite a bit going on here, but ultimately, you got your swivel. You'll probably notice right now, there is a floating piece in the middle there, and that is so that way he can, if you straight out this arm a little bit, he can crunch forward a good amount. I could also go back, so if you want him just looking up like that, as he kind of does in ROBOCOP 1, to kind of look at somebody on a kind of a bridge and then shoot him down from down here, then you can do that. And as for the legs, I can't imagine there's much in this split department, but probably more than he even has in the movie, so that's great to see. He's got his forward, his back as well, and there's even a swivel in there, so that'll help you with some additional standing poses. There's also swivel down here in the knee. I don't know how realistic that is, but you got that. As for the hinge, past 90, although that piston will get in the way of it going any further. I suspect even without it, I mean, the armor will get in the way anyhow, so not going to be a big deal. Down here on the ankles, we kind of already talked about this, but we have a ball in the piston and also a ball down here at the hinge here. He's got a really great back. Really good forward. Of all things, he's got McFarlane-style toe articulation, which is a really neat bonus. And, of course, he's got his rocker. So, yeah, this dude, articulation, can't be beat. This is probably the best ROBOCOP in this scale that there is, as long as you're willing to put some work into him. Now here is this crazy-ass jetpack. I probably just should have shown this off a little sooner than later, but that's okay. Here we are. As you can see, this is where I did that gunmetal paint, or whatever it's called. Then I did a semi-gloss on top of it, and it looks really clean. I'm actually really pleased with it. You can see it's got all these intricate little wire details, these different pipes and tubes. It looks really good. This is something I probably won't have on the figure at all times, but I'll just have this off to the side, kind of just as a bonus accessory. But it looks really good, just whether it's on them or off of them. I did put on the water decals to get on those little red stripes up here towards those jets and down there. And you also have these almost caution grips, whatever you want to call them. One thing that the instructions did show is that there is additional paint you could do on the wiring and on the inside of these vents, but I honestly don't want to ruin the really nice sculpt that's done in there, so I'm not even going to try, but if you want to go that far, you totally can. Probably going to need a really narrow paintbrush for that, but otherwise, all that being said, I'm not going to do this full assembly on camera because I think that will take forever. Here we go. It does take a hot minute to get it on there, but there's a little bit of a method to the madness. Basically, what you want to do is you don't have to pop these main, exosuit arms off in order to get them on there. What you want to do is get those 2 pegs on the back. You can actually kind of see it through that little slot there. Get those onto them. And then stretch these arms all the way out, remove the hands, and then use these joints here to slowly ease these hand portions onto the wrists. And then you gotta line up the wrist socket with the actual hands and then pin them in together. So this portion here is caught in between. And from there, once everything's attached, you should be able to just articulate the arm however you like. So you can see when you move the arm, everything else moves with it, which I think is really great. So that's awesome. And then if you want, you can even, I suspect, pop off this hand, and you can get his trigger wielding hand right here. You can port that on like that. I think it's on. I can't tell. It's like, it barely makes it on. But once you get it, it looks really good. And we can get his Auto 9, or the Cobra rifle if you're so enticed, if you want to mix and match, and then you can get that on. But now that I have this thing on, I'm kind of afraid of taking it off, so it's going to be on there for the rest of this review. Speaking of the rest of this review, let's move on to some size comparisons. Here we have the Good Smile model kit next to the NECA edition of ROBOCOP. This is the ultimate variant. This mold has been recycled many, many times with a whole bunch of different accessories, paint jobs, all of whatnot. And that being said, they scale almost perfectly. I think the NECA one is just a hair taller, but I think that's just because of a few little proportional things in there. God, I'm tired. I think it kind of comes down to the legs and the head. You'll notice the head, I think that's the biggest difference proportionally. The head on the NECA one is definitely thinner, and I think a little taller, but this one over here, it's a bit more squished down and wider, which is more accurate. This one, it honestly doesn't feel like it could fit a whole full human head in there, especially if you have the alternate Alex Murphy head, which you don't have for the model kit. That head is the same width as the helmeted portrait, so I think this one is a little bit less accurate. That being said, one strength that the NECA one definitely has over the model kit is the fact that it's pre-painted. I mean, obviously, you can see the difference that I was talking about, where I went with silver on the model kit, but on the NECA one, it's kind of this gunmetal blue with this purple hue on it. You can see that on the pecs over there, and that looks really nice. So this one's probably a little more accurate to RoboCop's 1 and 2. Again, this one feels a little bit more like Rogue City. I don't think at any point in the movies he was just stark silver like this, but I'm okay with that. He still looks really good. So yeah, I mean, they look fantastic together. If you don't mind mixing and matching different brands, if you want 2 versions of RoboCop, like you got a standard one, you got a RoboCop 3 one over here, you could totally do it. Another size comparison we can do is bring in the NECA Ed 209 over here, which of course towers over both of them, and since they are basically the same height, you can expect that the model kit will scale just fine with Eddie over here. They did do Good Smile do the Canebot and Ed 209 model kits as well, although those ones are a little bit above my pay grade. So that being said, there's Ed 209. I'll put him aside, and now of course we'll bring in the usual gag of idiots. Slide them on over here. We have Star Wars The Black Series Quash, and then of course we have Mechamuck. I could bring you in warm, or I could bring you in cold. I'm already cold, buddy.
Quash, I think you should sit this one out. Besides, this jetpack is a little bigger than yours.
What? I absolutely adore this model kit. Now, he needs a lot of work put into him if you want him looking a little bit more accurate, or at the very least, just looking more clean. Again, there was a marbling in the plastic. I guess that's something to be expected with any model kit. I mean, building it was just the same as any Bandai kit that I've done in the past. You got runners, click everything together, no glue is involved. It's a very easy kit to build. I'd say it's more middle ground. I wouldn't say super easy or super difficult to put together, but if you really know your stuff, if you really know your paints, that's what really brings this guy to life. I could have probably gone even further, like I could have painted the wiring, I could have looked up a better gloss coat to get on the armor or something like that, but as he stands or even flies, if you get the right assembly going, I think he's really cool. And of course, he's vastly different than the NECA one. So if you want a different type of Alex Murphy with a little more flavor to him, more interchangeable parts, more personality on behalf of course, the interchangeable faceplates, this is a very, very good option to go with. He is a hair more expensive than the default one, so if you want to go a cheaper route and you still want the kit, then you can go for the standard version, which excludes the jetpack and, again, big ol' flamethrower, grenade launcher buddy over here, whatever it's called. So if you can do without this and the jetpack, then you can go for the standard version. But if you want to go all the way, this kit's it's like $50. It's not that bad. And he's still available on BBTS. Otherwise, you could probably see him floating around other retailers. But I don't suspect you could find him anywhere outside of like a hobby shop or anything like that. He's a pretty special import kit to get, especially coming from Good Smile. They're not like all over the place of a type of brand, right? It's an import. So, but that being said, he was a really great experience to build. It took a long time, took a lot of loving, but he came together, and I think he's going to look really good in my very small but humble RoboCop collection. So let me know what you think about this kit in the comments. Let me know if you have any suggestions on how I could have done better, or if you've done this kit yourself, let me know what your process was. All that being said, I'm just about done. So thank you guys very much. I know this was a long one. If you enjoyed this review, then please, as per usual, be sure to like,
comment, ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals, and subscribe.
Stay out of trouble, rock on, and I will see you all later.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Check out this other video you might like in our sister gaming channel. It would be real sweet if you did. Still waiting.